at the Oxford University discover humanity's fast.
Hi there, very good evening to you. My name is Bernice Abu-Baidoo, and this is News Tonight. We're coming to you live from the Platinum Place here in Accra Ridge. Now, let's take a look at our top stories. Lawyers for former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta dismissed claims by OSP that removal of red notice by Interpol is temporary and subject to a final decision by Interpol's Commission for the Control of Files.
Ken Ofori-Atta's next judgment was pulled down long ago. The OSP did not meet the legal criterion for a red alert notice to be put on Ken Ofori-Atta, so his name has been pulled down.
Also, ECOWAS court assumes jurisdiction to hear Gertrude Tokonu's case following a dismissal of the Attorney General's objections. Stay with us as contrasting reactions follow the court's dismissal of the former CJ's interim request in her removal process, saying it lacks merit.
They have removed the woman already, so why should they go ahead to grant interim relief when she has already been removed from office?
Also in this package, a major boost for the education sector as government announces the hiring of 6,100 teachers to address staffing gaps across the country.
Give approval for us to recruit some 6,100 more teachers, and therefore that category of teachers which belong to the 2023 cohort.
And in business, government reviews saving about $10 million from renegotiating the integrated tax administration system, which is expected to deliver a comprehensive 360-degree view of taxpayer obligations.
So, Speaker, all what I've done is just to be legal and to implement the program as has been renegotiated and as we have reduced the cost by about $9 million United States dollars.
And ahead of the 2026 World Cup, 10-member interministerial technical working group to develop Ghana's roadmap to the global tournament.
Football, the World Cup, only creates a greater platform where people will assemble, and we are taking advantage of sports diplomacy to be able to do our work and reach out there easier.
And much later in the bulletin, children are killed in one of Russia's deadliest strikes on western Ukraine. I've got details of these and other stories here on News Tonight. Please stay with me. Thank you so much for staying here on News Tonight. We begin in the education sector, and for teachers and teacher trainees who have been calling on government to be absorbed, well, the Education Minister, GHOne says Cabinet has approved the recruitment of 6,100 teachers to address staffing shortfalls across the country. Briefing journalists in Accra, he reaffirmed that education remains Ghana's largest employer and said government is committed to strengthening its human resource capacity.
The budget structure, don't forget, education remains Ghana's largest employer. So the Director General of GES is here. I understand that some striking teachers are looking for us on the streets of Accra. And then to respond to them, that Cabinet gave approval for us to recruit some 6,100 more teachers. And therefore, that category of teachers which belong to the 2023 cohort are adequately captured. I'll be surprised if it is the same group that is on the street. They rather should be looking for us and going back to offices for purpose of audit and identification to be restated to be paid. In addition to the allocation of 39.23 billion, the Ghana Education Fund has been allocated 9.9 billion, including 42 billion earmarked for free senior high school and free TVET infrastructure and services.
The Education Minister has also been rejecting claims that government has made no budgetary allocation for the free senior high school program in the 2026 fiscal year. He explained that under the new arrangement, GHOne has been allocated 9.9 billion cedis, with 4.2 billion cedis specifically set aside for free SHS and free TVET infrastructure and services. Mr. Idrisu says this transition reflects a deliberate policy shift and not a withdrawal of financial support.
So in total, 4.2 billion has been dedicated to sustaining and improving the free senior high school and free TVET program. This investment will ensure that every Ghanaian child, regardless of background, has access to secondary education. We will do everything possible. Last year, it was 3.5 billion in the 2025 budget. So from 4.2 billion is an appreciable increase. Part of the crisis in free senior high school is infrastructure. The lack of, or call it inadequate, classroom, dormitories, laboratories, ICT centers to turn them digital, would embark on one of the most ambitious education infrastructure programs. So that explains what the Minister for Finance explained, that there will be 200 kindergarten blocks, 200 primary schools, and 200 junior high schools, and then 400 teacher bungalows and 400 modern sanitary facilities.
Let's focus a bit more on this. Divine Pay is an education research and policy analyst. He joins me for a quick conversation. Grateful for your time, Mr. Pay. Now, will this change anything in the free senior high school funding and administrative work?
Yes, good evening to you, and thanks for having me. The answer is yes. It looks more like shifting the budget line for free senior high school implementation to GHOne. Assure some level of cash flow. So if you look at, they started last year, government started last year by allocating 3.5 billion from GHOne to the free senior high school. And because of that, the government was able to have some cash inflow to sustain the program over the last particular year. When I say sustain, I mean able to have the budget credibility, the implementation increase. They're able to release funds for the various service providers to provide their service. So if government is still going to charge the free SHS implementation to GHOne with an amount of over 4 billion this year or coming year, what it tells is that given last year's experience, it means that there's still going to be an assurance of money being available for the policy implementation, where we are again likely to see budget implementation for the free SHS implementation higher than previously, as we have been seeing, because previously the budget line was not from GHOne, It was from government of Ghana, and then the annual budgetary funding amount, which the annual budgetary funding amount more or less the oil revenue proceeds to education sector. So, given the fact that GHOne usually has some reliable cash flow, it says that the liquidity challenge that PSHS implementation used to have will be quite lessened.
Divine, so someone will ask, was there a problem that needed to be solved? Briefly, tell us why you think the minister is justified or the government is justified in deciding to shift the funding for free senior high school to the GHOne.
I must put on record that I've been one of the few voices that is against the burdening of GHOne with non-infrastructure projects. Because GHOne, the objective of setting up the fund is to strengthen infrastructure provision in our senior high school, in our educational system in entirety. So I've been one of the few voices that just speak against burdening the GHOne with non-infrastructure projects. Look at it over the years, but today, somehow government would not make a strong case, in the sense that over the past few years, allocation to the GHOne has been an average of 1.7 billion. 1.7 billion. And last year, government increases to 10 billion, 10.3 billion specifically. So government will say, well, if you used to be receiving 1.7 billion and I sent you to 10 billion and asking you for just 3.5 billion for my 3 SHS implementation, then you see that it becomes difficult for persons like us to again make a strong case that don't touch the GHOne for free SHS implementation, because over the years I've been working in educate 1.7 billion, and that 1.7 billion was the debt servicing need, and then it was also capped, which means that out of this 1.7 billion, not all of them would have been going to GHOne, because there was a 2017 law passed or act that was passed to divert some part of the GHOne money to other sector. So government would have now been making a case, well, I have now uncapped it and increased it by over 500%. So if I'm asking for about 3 billion to 4 billion just for the PSH implementation, then it becomes difficult for us in the sector to hold on to the position that do not touch it. So for me, I feel that once government has increased the allocation to GHOne substantially by as much as over 500%, the government is asking for an average of 3.5 billion for the first SHS implementation, which is quite an assurance of cash flow.
Right.
For us able to address the challenges with the policy implementation. Well, government can be forgiven, but again, going forward, we need to have a clear conversation, because I don't think going to the future where our infrastructure need in the sector will continue to grow, we continue to rely on the GHOne for the PSH implementation. We still need to have a conversation to see how reliably we can implement the PSH program, especially using oil revenue and other innovative financing approaches that may be available.
Grateful for your time, Divine. Divine Pay is an education research and policy analyst, sharing his thoughts on the announcement by the Education Minister earlier today about GHOne being responsible for funding free SHS. Away from the education sector, the legal team of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is accusing the OSP of misleading the public in the decision of Interpol to remove a red notice issued against their client. Months ago, the OSP requested that Interpol place Mr. Ofori-Atta on its red notice list over alleged procurement and financial irregularities during his tenure as finance minister. But the red notice has since been removed, and according to Mr. Ofori-Atta's lawyers, this is solely because they challenged the request, arguing that it was improperly and dubiously filed. Despite their withdrawal, the OSP in a public notice insisted that proceedings remain active. The temporary reduction of Mr. Ofori-Atta's name, according to the OSP, and his image as well, is only procedural until a final determination is made. The office further described as contrary reports, those reports you heard earlier, as contrary and as misinformation. However, a member of the former minister's legal team, Frank Davis, says the OSP is peddling falsehoods and is only attempting to contain what he describes as his own embarrassment in the matter.
The pulling down of his name has nothing to do with the charges he has filed. Nothing, absolutely nothing to do with it. If that was the case, why didn't the OSP, who is fond of president, why didn't he release that before? And now that it is in the public domain, he comes to say what? Ken Okoya's next charge was pulled down long ago. The OSP did not meet the legal criterion for a red alert notice to be put on Ken Okoya. So his name has been pulled down. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with whether he has filed charges or not. Ken Okoya has not been formally notified of any charges that have been prepared against him. I read it on social media the same way as you did. I would have thought that having filed the charges, he will notify the accused persons before running it into town. And that is his style. So we live into his style. Ken Opori Ata Nanaya Kuntu Kunuku has not been notified of any formal charges against him.
And Frank Davis is a member of Mr. Ken Ofori-Attah's legal team, responding in his last statement to whether or not Mr. Ofori-Attah is aware of the charges that the OSP formally filed against him. You're watching News Tonight. When I come back, I'll be bringing you all the clarity you need with regard to the case sent to the ECOWAS Community Court by former CJ GHOne. You want to stay for details. Thank you for staying on News Tonight. On Insight, the ECOWAS Community Court has dismissed an application filed by former Chief Justice Gertrude Saki-Tokonu seeking to halt the process for her removal from office, ruling that the request lacked merit. Delivering its decision on Wednesday, November 19, the court held that the former Chief Justice failed to establish urgency or demonstrate any imminent irreparable harm that would justify the granting of interim measures. According to the panel, the nearly 3-month delay between the commencement of the work of the Article 146 Committee on May 15, 2025, and the filing of her application on July 4, 2025, undermined her own claim of urgency. As a result, the court found no grounds to assess the other criteria required for provisional relief. Before addressing the merits of the interim request, the court also dismissed an objection by the Attorney General, arguing that the ECOWAS court lacked jurisdiction because a related matter was before Ghana's Supreme Court. EIB Network's legal affairs correspondent Murtala Inusa, who monitored the virtual proceedings, reports that the court has therefore ordered the Attorney General to file a defense in the substantive case within 30 days. The substantive matter will now proceed in line with the court's timelines. So right after the court session, Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Sremsai put up this post on his Facebook page, and it reads, the ECOWAS court has this morning dismissed Mrs. Justice Gertrude Tokonu's application for interim measures. The court stated that the application did not satisfy the criteria for a grant of interim measures. More particularly, the court held that the applicant's own conduct defeats her claim of imminent and irreparable harm. The court is therefore satisfied that the applicant has not demonstrated the existence of imminent or exceptional circumstance that will justify the urgency of the application filed almost 3 months after the act complained of. In the light of the applicant's failure to meet the requirement of urgency, the court finds no basis to assess the remaining criteria for provisional measures, same being cumulative. The request for provisional measures, as outlined by the applicant, same not substantiated, is therefore dismissed. So this is what Justice Sremsai put up on his Facebook page, and if you follow him a lot, you know that he usually puts such notices and news about government's legal dealings via his Facebook page. But here's what Eko Isuman posted on X, and he is a former legal advisor to the president. Now, he has issues with the report as posted by the Deputy Attorney General, and I'll read what he posted on X for you. He says, as a Deputy Attorney General and a public servant who is paid with taxpayers' money, you are under an obligation to make full disclosures and not skewed disclosures. You deliberately failed to add that Ghana's Attorney General's preliminary objection on grounds of want of jurisdiction was dismissed, and that the court found that there was a clear case of human rights abuse and directed Ghana's Attorney General to file a defense within 30 days. And he ends by saying the case is still pending in caps with an exclamation mark. Let's now go to legal affairs correspondent Murtala Inusa. And Murtala, it's interesting how this is playing out. And Eko Isuman feeling that the Deputy AG is cherry picking when it comes to this matter. But help us understand this substantive case that the AG is being asked to respond to in 30 days. Run us through the details of that particular case and what former CJ Tokonu is seeking.
Well, Bernice, for those who remember, when the issues of the committee started, the lady Chief Justice at the time filed processes at the High Court. Some went to the Supreme Court, and largely she was alleging human rights violations as to how she was treated, allegedly, when she appeared before the committee's work that started from May 15. In fact, she raised a lot of issues, and that issues borders on, like I said, human rights violations. So she said, make the point that once the matter is before the Supreme Court and has not been heard, it is only fair for her that she'll move up higher and go to the ECOWAS court and raise the same issues there. And remember, the Attorney General makes the point that the issues that she has raised are the issues that were still pending before the Supreme Court of Ghana. And so the ECOWAS Court doesn't have jurisdiction. That was the objection raised this morning when the panel was ruling on the interim injunction first. It dealt with the Attorney General's objection to the jurisdiction of the ECOWAS Court. What the court said was that the issue that the Chief Justice, that the former Chief Justice raised, borders on human rights violation, and as ECOWAS Court, their jurisdiction has been invoked for them to look into those matters, and went ahead to overrule the Attorney General's request or motion, objection against the fact that it doesn't have jurisdiction. Then it came on to the Chief Justice interim measure. And if you liken that to our setting, you might say that interim injunction or interlocutory injunction. The court said the issue of urgency that the former Chief Justice raised by her own showing, she hasn't demonstrated that, especially.
Right, Murtala, sorry to interject, but we have just elaborated on that. I would just like for you to just quickly help us understand if this substantive matter is the case in which she's demanding some $10 million from the state.
So the issue in which she was asking for $10 million is to say that, yes, ever since I have filed my substantive matter, the Attorney General has not filed a response to that. And so once the AG has not filed a response to that, it is as though that they don't have any answer to my request. And so all that I'm asking the ECOWAS Court to do is for them to compensate me, and that is the reason he filed for a default judgment.
Right.
That issue came up when the ruling was delivered and the parties were, the AG was asked to file a defense in 30 days. It is something that once the court has made a point that they want to enter into the allegations made, the issue about a default judgment will not hold. And so it is one that will come up clearly when the court, the matter before the court is properly or ripe for hearing. But it is clear that the court has given the AG 30 days from today to file their answer or response to that substantive matter by the Lady Chief Justice. But the one that she's demanding $10 million, the request, her point was that the AG initially failed to respond, but the AG was of the view that once there is an interim issue that the ECOWAS Court ought to respond before going to the substantive matter, they want to deal with the preliminary issues before the main case is done, and which was dealt with today.
Murtala Inusa, we'll leave it here for now and keep our eyes in the ECOWAS Court. That's our legal affairs correspondent, Murtala Inusa. They're bringing some bit of clarity to all that's been happening with regards to the former CJ's case before the ECOWAS Community Court. Let's now hear from her lawyer, who is also a former Attorney General. And he's been speaking to my colleague, Tutu Adanso, on Star today.
It doesn't affect anybody, anything. And I wanted confirmation to let you know that we, the lawyers in Nigeria, had already written to the ECOWAS Court that there has been undue delay while the government of Ghana continues to act without regard to the pendency of the action. And therefore, we're no longer interested. The court could go ahead and give us a date for hearing. We had already suggested that. So it is this. There's nothing newsworthy about this. We filed, the processes were filed in July. And by 1st of September, the woman has been removed.
Right.
And already. So what do you think they were doing? They wanted to fix the court with a fait accompli. They have removed the woman already. So why should they go ahead to grant an interim relief when she has already been removed from office? That's the main thing that you ought to realize. Mm-hmm. By July, the application was there. Even if it went late, it was there. But by September, they went ahead and removed the rid of from office. And so we wrote saying that it will, it's of no use. But that's what they have done throughout, even when the former committee had not finished hearing all the people's heads.
Lawyer Ikoetu is lawyer for former CJ GHOne speaking on the ECOWAS Court's decision earlier today. That'll be all for Insight. The public tribunals will significantly enhance the country's fight against galamsey. He believes it will do so by ensuring swift, efficient, and deterrent justice.
I get the reports every day. Every day you find anti-galamsey, you find galamsey pits, people being arrested and all that. Another problem we have is so far we've arrested more than 1,700 people. The courts to even process these people is a problem. So many of them we've been forced to grant them bail. And in some cases, when you go back to look for them, they've left the area. And so one of the things Cabinet did the last time was to pass the Public Tribunals Bill so that we'll push issues to do with illegal mining to the public tribunals because they would adjudicate faster and let justice be seen to be done. And as the tribunals have it, they have a judge and then they have 4 other members who either have a legal background or of a certain level of understanding of the law. And so if that comes, we would be able to process, these cases against illegal mining even quicker. There's another aspect to it. One of the main focuses has been to push the illegal miners out of the forest reserves. And so part of the focus has been the forest reserves and then also mining on the water bodies. And so they are on the water bodies, they are seizing Shamfam machines, they are destroying them. We've said that any Shamfam machine they seize, they should destroy it so that it can be used again.
President John Dramani Mahama there. Now let's engage the coordinator of pro-environmental group Eco-Conscious Citizen, Awola Sewa. Grateful for your time, Awola. So this fight against galamsey is multifaceted. There's the part of the going into the forest, getting the people out. There's the part of education and sensitization. There's also the legal part. And we've just heard some news from the presidency today. Your quick thoughts and reactions to that.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. Yes, it is indeed multifaceted. And it is a step in the right direction to have tribunals to deal with this matter. So that when persons are arrested, and the investigations are completed, it can be speedily tried and prosecuted. I think that is a step in the right direction. We would also add that we have to start applying the polluter pays principle so that persons who are found guilty, who have property, the property should be sold and used towards the cost of reclamation because reclamation is a very expensive business.
It's interesting you spoke about that because we were just hearing on the floor of Parliament yesterday the minority raising concerns about the allocation given to the fight against galamsey. Since you've gone into the remit of how expensive it is for us to reclaim land and even fight galamsey, this is something that we expect the presidency to pick up and all, but it just reminds me of your engagement with the presidency. Did this come up, this idea you've just shared with us?
Well, we have, conscious citizens have raised on many occasions the polluter pays principle. I believe the Coalition Against Illegal Mining has also raised it. It's a cardinal point. You cannot just destroy the landscape, poison the water bodies, and then you just get a sentence and that is that. If you know that your ill-gotten wealth will be taken away from you and used towards the cost of reclamation, you might think twice before you engage in this criminal activity. And of course, when it comes to the prosecutions, we are looking at high flyers also being prosecuted. I mean, prosecuting Kwame, who is on the pit, is good, but it would be better still if we prosecute the high flyers.
So it's interesting.
Allegedly involved,
right?
Ministers are allegedly involved, and so on and so forth.
It's interesting you said that because I was just coming to that point, the fact that over the years, even groups like yourself have raised concerns about the fact that those arrested are usually not the kingpins, they are not the big fish. It's usually the ones who do the menial jobs and the ones who get all the money, the sponsors, sit in other places. And so I'm just grateful that you mentioned that point about going for the big fish when they arrest those in the pit. Just briefly, though, tell me how you think this latest development plays into the bigger fight against illegal mining.
Well, this latest development is good, but I think we know some of the kingpins who are involved. Allegations have been made against party chairmen, against members of parliament. They are allegations. They should be properly investigated, and we should begin to see persons, high flyers, arrested and prosecuted. Apart from Chairman GHOne, who was reported a very long time ago during the past administration, we haven't really seen many high flyers. And unless we see this, the perception is that illegal mining is going on the scale at which it's going on because too many high flyers who are involved are not being dealt with. So the time has come to deal with the high flyers.
Right. Thank you so much for your time this evening. That's Tawula Sewa. She is coordinator of pro-environmental group Eco-Conscious Citizens. Away from that, the Magistrate Court at the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit, that's DOVSU, of the police headquarters, has remanded 3 accused persons, John Odate Lamte, alias Ni Eje, and his siblings, into police custody in connection with a widely circulated video of domestic violence. John Odate Lamte, who was seen in that viral footage physically assaulting a naked woman believed to be his wife, has been charged with physical assault, contrary to sections 1B, 1I, and 3.2 of the Domestic Violence Act 2007, Act 732. His siblings, Louise Odate Lamte and Grace Kushia Lamte, have been charged with conspiracy to commit a crime, to wit, threat of harm, contrary to sections 23(1) and 74 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 1960, Act 29. They allegedly attempted to attack a female tenant they suspected of recording and circulating the viral video. All 3 suspects have been remanded into police custody and are expected to reappear before court on the 3rd of December 2025. Meanwhile, the Ghana Police Service is appealing to the victim or any member of the public with credible information about her whereabouts to report to the nearest police station. It further assures that all information will be treated with strict confidentiality. You're watching News Tonight with me, Bernice, Abu-Baidoo. So let's go to Parliament now, because some interesting exchanges over the cost of retooling the Ghana Armed Forces through Parliament into really exciting scenes today after the minority accused the government of secretly planning to purchase 2 new presidential jets. During the debate, ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Abu-Baidoo, claimed government intends spending some $1.2 billion on a new presidential aircraft, something which was heavily rejected by the majority. Let's take you to Parliament.
Disagreements over the cost of retooling the Ghana Armed Forces nearly marred day 3 of the 2026 budget debate in Parliament. Ranking member for the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Samuel Abu-Baidoo, during his debate, claimed government intends spending $1.2 billion on a presidential jet. The claim was, however, questioned by the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, who argued the amount is rather for retooling the Air Force for the next 4 years. The back and forth nearly threw the House into a disarray.
At page 184, you will see a capex that what is actually being budgeted for the retooling of the Ghana Armed Forces is Ghana Air Force. The figure is 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion Ghana cedis to buy 2 presidential jets. Cabinet Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. I need not to lecture him on the value and importance of accuracy. Item 34, Ministry of Defense. Let's go through the items. The 3rd item under the Ministry of Defense is retooling of the Air Force. Retooling of the Air Force. And the figure there, capex, is 2,532,000,000 Ghana cedis.
The The first Deputy Speaker consequently ordered for the claim to be expunged from the records.
Because the honourable member did not refer to a specific page in which the dollar is indicated, every page said by the honourable member in dollar should be expunged completely from the record.
The minority had, however, not had its final bite. Flanked by his colleague MPs, Samuel Abu Jinapo, in a subsequent address to the media, accused the government of seeking to buy 2 presidential jets through the back door under the guise of retooling the Ghana Air Force. According to the Damango MP, the over 13 billion cedis government intends spending could be put to other better uses given the economic challenges the country is experiencing.
Is it a good way of spending our taxes? Is it a prudent step to take in the circumstances we find ourselves in our country where nurses are agitating for recruitment, where arrears to nurses have not been paid, where teachers are not receiving arrears? Is this supposed to be the priority of our government? I leave the judgment, and we the minority, we the MPP minority, leave this judgment to you.
And that was a News Desk report. It's now time for business news here on News Tonight.
The Business Brief is brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
It's now time for business news, and Finance Minister Dr. Ato Forson says the previous NPP administration left behind a mess in its handling of the Integrated Tax Administration System (ITAS) contract. He told Parliament the current government has been forced to correct multiple procedural violations and avert serious financial risks. Updating the House on the state of the contract, he revealed that the current government has since renegotiated the document, reversing several of the exemptions and securing some savings of about $10 million.
Mr. Speaker, most importantly, the IMF has identified the implementation of this particular ITAS software as a structural benchmark that has been turned to prior action. And so it is critical for the Republic of Ghana to implement it. Mr. Speaker, let me put on record that in spite of all the challenges around this ITAS software, it is obvious that the ITAS will provide a 360-degree view of taxpayers' obligation and interactions to enable risk-based compliance management, timely enforcement, and targeted taxpayer support. It will also integrate the domestic tax administration system with existing customs platform, Mr. Speaker, such as ICOMS. Mr. Speaker, aside that, it will also integrate with the registrar of companies, so that we'll be able to know who is behind every single transaction. Mr. Speaker, the IMF has encountered this ITAS software somewhere, and they believe that it's a good software that will work for the people of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, and so I am here identifying that the software is good. The previous administration took the software, thought it was good. Mr. Speaker, the IMF has confirmed that the software is good. I have to implement it. But before I implement it, I have to come and clean everything else that I believe was wrong, Mr. Speaker, and that includes seeking parliamentary approval and renegotiating the rate down. Mr. Speaker, all what I've done is just to be legal and to implement the program as has been renegotiated and as we have reduced the cost by about $9 million United States dollars.
Now, in a stark reminder of Africa's untapped economic potential, Mlolisim Gojo, President of Business Unity South Africa and co-chair of B20 Africa, has urged African nations to fast-track the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. Speaking in an interview with GHOne News' Ali Zaite at the B20 Summit in Johannesburg, Mr. Gojo emphasized that harmonizing policies, regulations and infrastructure is the surest way to ignite sustainable growth across the continent. There's more in the following report.
Launched in 2021, the African Continental Free Trade Area aims to create a single market for over 1.3 billion people in Africa, with a combined GDP exceeding $3.4 trillion, potentially boosting intra-African trade. Despite milestones such as the Guided Trade Initiative, which has enabled initial shipments of products from Kenya and Rwanda to Ghana, the AfCFTA's full potential remains constrained by deep-rooted challenges in cross-border trade. Kolisi Ngojo, President of Business Unity South Africa and co-chair of the B20 Summit, believes these age-old challenges can be overcome through uniform border requirements and digitalization to streamline the movement of goods and customs clearance.
Africa has to get its house in order. At a political level, you've got a lot of opportunities through the AU to actually say, as the AU, what does it mean for us, 54 countries, and what do we need to do at a political level to ensure we create the environment that these specific arrangements that have been defined in that free trade agreement can be executed.
In Ghana, home to the AfCFTA Secretariat in Accra, informal cross-border trade alone surged to 7.4 billion cedis, equivalent to $500 million in the last quarter of 2024, sustaining livelihoods for thousands, but operating largely in the shadows due to suppression risks and lack of integration into formal systems. Exporters at borders such as Aflao with Togo and Paga with Burkina Faso endure multi-day waits caused by manual inspections, inconsistent documentation, and multiple checkpoints, causing frustrations that continue to hamper stakeholders in both export and import markets. Even South Africa, Africa's trade powerhouse and a GTI participant since January 2024, grapples with similar issues despite its these are urgent, real-world problems that demand immediate action. He says the B20 Africa Summit has prioritized inclusivity, bringing together experts, business leaders, and academics from across the continent to ensure the recommendations drive growth for the entire continent.
This is not South Africa's B20. This is Africa's B20. That's why the whole thing is about the significance of this is the potential of Africa being put on the map and actually being acted on. That's why we searched, make sure even in our task forces, we brought in all the experts, thinkers, business guys, leaders, academics into the task forces from the continent. Yes. Because we wanted this to be an inclusive Africa B20.
The B20 is the official business engagement forum for the G20, providing a platform for companies and business organizations worldwide to articulate their perspectives on pressing global economic and trade issues.
And that's Alice Aite reporting from Johannesburg, South Africa. And this is News Tonight. We'll be back with sports news updates shortly.
The Business Brief was brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
In sports news, the Sports and Recreation Minister, Kofi Adams, has inaugurated a high-level interministerial technical working group to lead Ghana's preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The group is tasked with coordinating the country's logistics, facilities, and overall readiness of the Black Stars ahead of the competition. The sports minister noted that beyond ensuring strong on-field performance, the working group will also help leverage the World Cup to promote Ghana's tourism potential and showcase the nation's economic opportunities to a global audience.
We do not want to go for this World Cup and just participate and come back. It is one of the highest gathering at the world level in terms of what? Numbers. So it gives you the platform to market your country and immerse it in the minds of what? People. So we are not just going that Black Stars went, maybe played and even won the World Cup. That is the only news that we will be talking about. We want that whatever level we reach, whether we win the World Cup or we play the semi-finals and play for third place or play for first place or play quarterfinals or whatever, our presence must be felt. And our presence must be felt in different ways and in many areas. You have what it takes. Those of you selected from various targeted ministries are the movers and
Now let's focus on the SAC Super Volleyball, and Calibi wrapped up their final group stage match against a formidable opponent, the Nigerian Customs women's team, who like Calibi had won all their previous games. Calibi showed why they are the reigning GAVA champion of champions by striking first and taking the opening set against the Nigerian League champions. However, Nigerian Customs asserted their dominance and stormed back to claim the next 3 sets, sealing a 3-1 victory. Nigerian coach Suleiman Ebe stated his team came to Ghana to conquer and expressed confidence about reaching the finals. Sports up next is international. On the international front, including 3 children in a Russian missile and drone attack that hit 2 blocks of flats in the Ukrainian city of Ternopil. Officials say another 73 people were wounded, 15 of them children, in the strike early today. The attack is one of the deadliest in the region since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022. Ukraine's Air Force later said Russian X-101 cruise missiles had hit the residential flats. And that's how we end tonight's edition of News Tonight, have been produced by Emmanuel Ijabing. There's more news when you log on to starfm.com.gh. From the entire team, we wish you a very good evening.